What is the purpose of our existence? Why am I here? Why are you here? I'll commence my talk with a short anecdote. There was a child on the street who took a stone and threw it at a man's car. This man came out of his car, furious, enraged, very upset. He went towards the child and said, "How dare you throw a stone at my car?" The child said, "Why don't you accompany me for a moment?" The man complied, although still enraged. He went to the side of the road and saw that a boy had fallen from his wheelchair. And this child, who threw a stone at the man's car, he said, "This child is actually my brother. And he had fallen from his wheelchair. I tried my level best to place him back on the wheelchair, but I was unable to do so. So I tried stopping people on the road to assist me. However, none of them took me seriously. They thought I was a beggar. Then I started stopping people who were driving. Perhaps they would listen to me. But none of them complied. All continued with their journey. This was the only alternative I had left. In order to grab someone's attention, I had to take a stone and throw it at a person's car." This man was fascinated, astounded. Placed the child back on the wheelchair. He arrived at his car and saw a slight dent on the door of his car. He said to himself, "I will never ever remove the dent from the door of my car because it will remind me of this day. It will remind me of the fact that sometimes we are so entangled in our own affairs that we forget about people in our society. We forget about members of our community." So, when we decline assisting other human beings, when we say no towards serving another person, who are we actually harming? The Quran in Surah Muhammad chapter 47 verse number 38 says that, "Here you are, those invited to spend in the cause of God. But amongst you are those who do not give, and whoever withholds benefit from himself or herself." That means when you don't assist, you are not harming that other person. You are in retrospect harming yourself. And when you help another human being, you are not benefiting that person, but in reality you are benefiting yourself. Because true happiness, liberation, freedom and contentment only comes when we serve members of our society. Swami Vivekananda, or as the leader of the free world, Donald Trump would say, Swami Vivekananda, he was born as Narendranath Datta, an Indian monk, a chief disciple of the Indian mystic Ramakrishna. He has an interesting quote where he says, "Service to man is service to God." Many a times we have this misconception that the only way to attain closeness to God is through prayers. Because we know in religion we are told, worship God. So we think that the only way to worship God is through prayer. But in reality, visiting an orphanage is worshiping God. Taking care of the widow is worshiping God. Now, what is the correct form of giving? How should we actually give? The Bhagavad Gita is an ancient Hindu scripture. It is actually an advice from Sri Krishna to Sri Arjun. Chapter 17 verses 20 to 22 highlight the correct form of giving, the appropriate way of seva, service. So it says, charity given to a person with an expectation of return. So charity given with the aim of expecting something is wrong. Then the Bhagavad Gita says half-hearted giving. What is half-hearted giving? When we give and humiliate that other person. Sometimes there are people in our society, when you ask them, why don't you help another human being? Why don't you help that person? They say, I would ask help from another person, but I know I will face humiliation. There's a verse in the Bible, the book of Acts, chapter number 20, verse number 35. It's actually the New Testament. It says, it is more blessed to give than to receive. How can I elaborate this practically? With a practical example. When it says, it is more blessed to give than to receive, am I talking about a miracle that will happen, that I give 10 pounds and suddenly I get a lot of money? No. This is known as a concept called corporate social responsibility. corporate social responsibility is a business model. It's a self-regulation business model. Coca-Cola, Pepsi partake in corporate social responsibility. Coca-Cola also partake in CSR. Why am I mentioning Coca-Cola? Because it's a drink I cannot live without. They set up a foundation in 1984, and since then they have contributed more than $820 million in causes like uplifting women, access to clean drinking water where water is scarce and limited, and the personal and professional development of underprivileged youth. Why? To enhance their brand image? Maybe. But also, there is a greater reason. Because they understand that there is power in giving. There is power in providing service towards people in the society. Now, the main question. How much should I give? $10? $1 million? $1,000? I can't tell you an exact amount. I may say, give 1 million shillings a month. You may say, I may not even earn that much. So, give according to your capacity. Give according to your capability. And when I say give, I don't only mean monetary giving, financial giving. I'm also talking about giving in terms of advice. Counseling someone is giving. Smiling at a person is giving. I have a wide smile on my face. I'm giving you all. Now, when I say give, there's an excuse that people normally give. That, okay, so Ejaz has said, you can even give a smile, right? You can even give advice, and I have a lot of money, but I'll just smile, I'll just give counseling, but I'll keep my money to myself. No. If God has given you wealth, you must give. If God has given you financial independence, then you must support people in your society. Am I trying to stop you from having fun in life? No. Buy that wonderful iPhone. Go for that luxurious trip, although right now many of you will not go for any luxurious trips. Buy that expensive apartment. However, do not forget your neighbor who sleeps hungry. Do not forget that orphan who is unable to get basic education merely because he is born an orphan. Do not forget that parent who is unable to pay his children's fees due to their financial instability. Now, I feel embarrassed. How much should I give? There's a verse in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 21, verses 1 to 4, where a number of rich individuals contributed to the temple treasury. A lot of money. However, there was one poor widow who kept 2 small copper coins. And Jesus said, this poor widow has put in more than all the others. Why? Because she gave with sincerity. She gave with love. Not for fame, name, and prestige and respect. Then we have Prabhu Swami Maharaj. A number of noble acts of service. So, he is a prominent Hindu leader, the president and guru of Bocha Sanvasi Akshar Purushottam Swami Narayan Sanstha. In short, it is known as BAPS. He is regarded as the 5th spiritual successor of Swami Narayan. He has a volunteer force of more than 55,000 people, men and women. They have contributed 12 million hours annually, and they have organized medical camps in different parts of the globe, such as the UK, US, India, and various countries in Africa. He is also tackling programs on anti-drug addiction, anti-alcohol addiction, and tobacco addiction. In India, you may have noticed that many a times they encounter floods, earthquakes, and various external disasters. He has built 55 schools in Gujarat, Maharashtra, and Orissa for victims who have undergone such natural disasters. He has a quote, "In the joy of others lies our own." When we make people happy, that is when we actually get true happiness. True liberation only comes when we make others happy and joyous. Then there's a verse in the Bible, Jesus Christ, chapter number 13, Gospel of John, verses 4 to 17. I'll shorten the verses. Basically what happened was, Jesus and his disciples were eating. After finishing their meal, Jesus stood up, took a basin, and started washing the feet of his disciples. One of the disciples said, by the name of Simon Peter, that, "Oh Jesus, you are our master. How can you wash our feet?" Jesus replies by saying, "Unless I wash you, you have no part with me. I will never become a true leader unless I partake in this noble act of service." And then he says, "What I have done to you, you do so for your followers." This is a concept known as servant leadership, where the main goal of a leader is to serve. I'll end with a story from Wasa'il Shia, from the life of Imam Ali. So when he was the caliph, he is a imam, the first imam of the Shiite faith and the fourth caliph of Islam. So when he was king, when he was the caliph, he once walked on the street and he saw a Christian beggar. So one of the companions said, "Oh Ali, let's just go. He's a Christian. Why are you bothered?" The imam said, "Since when have I taught you to give based on religion? Since when have I told you only give to the Muslim?" The imam went and sat next to the beggar. Imagine, an imam sitting next to a beggar, king next to a pauper. Then he said, the imam, that "I will not move from here until this man is served with justice." Then there's a quote in Ejaz Bhalloo, and he said it during this occasion as well, that human beings are of two types. They are either your brothers in faith or your equals in humanity. Therefore, when we give, we should not give based on religion, caste, creed, social background, etc. We should give based on what? Based on love, compassion, mercy, and humanity. So when we become wealthy and rich, do not raise your standards of living. No, raise your standards of giving. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.